America's system of public lands are vast, over 640 million acres, and that's nearly 30% of the U.S. land base. On this trip, we'll meet conservationists, landowners, and local officials to discuss what many consider to be the most important, yet least known and understood conservation and access program in America, the Land and Water Conservation Fund. So we're here in northwest Montana on some public lands purchased with Land and Water Conservation funds. And we're going to do a little turkey hunt up here, Land.
I'm excited about it.
I'm here with President and CEO of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, Land Tawney. Got to get up early and get out before the birds wake up. They're on roost right now. And then we're going to hopefully hear some gobbling and see if we can pull something in.
So 1964, Land and Water Conservation Fund is established.
So you can see this particular tree, the birds can roost on those limbs.
Really, this is when offshore oil development was happening in the Gulf of Mexico, and to take from one resource and give back to another was the idea. And so basically you're taking excise taxes and putting that back into conservation and access here in the United States.
And recreational opportunities as well.
Exactly. Every single county has been touched by this fund. And so that's a soccer field, a swimming pool, a fishing access site. That runs the gamut, but it's really for recreation and to get people outside.
So this particular piece of property that we're sitting on was actually private land. It could have been sold to developers, but through the vision of a conservation organization like the Nature Conservancy, they were able to purchase this property and make it for public access, correct?
Yeah, not only is it made for public access, but this is actually in the public ownership now too, which means it belongs to you and I and everybody else in America. The red is the Indian paintbrush. And so to me, it's a perfect way to not only provide access opportunities, but also help generate that outdoor economy that is $887 billion in this country. And that's with places like this that are close to, Missoula is only 20 minutes away. This is not a far drive this morning. So it's accessible to a ton of people to out here and recreate.
When people use their public lands, they also spend money, and that helps the local economy and creates jobs that are linked to conservation.
Missoula and all of the wilderness areas we have around here have become a draw for people from all over the world. And so we see those folks come to town and they sometimes spend a week here and they impact all different parts of the economy. They stay in hotels, they eat in restaurants, they shop at stores like the Trailhead.
Todd, tell me a little bit about your time owning this store and running it.
Well, I've been involved here since 1994. So really my entire career has been based around the Trailhead. Our business is really built on the back of public lands and public land access. Without that, people don't have a place to recreate. So, without public lands, we really don't have a customer base. We really don't have a business.
Thank you.
And so for us, the regular guy, the regular citizen who lives here, has a chance to get out on the water and get out in the mountains in a way that wouldn't exist if we didn't have public lands.
So do you come to the park often?
I actually come here almost every day.
Really?
Yep, all year long.
So this place is really important to you?
Absolutely. That's kind of our church, it's where we find our happy places and how we like to live our lives.
What about public lands? Are they important to Montanans?
Absolutely. Personally, they define who I am.
Anything we do that's good requires partnerships. The city of Missoula can't engage in purchasing and maintaining public lands alone. Lived here all my life. Pretty remarkable place to live.
Well, I'm here with John Ingen. He's the mayor of the city of Missoula.
This is Silver Park. This has Land and Water Conservation Fund money in it. It's a program that has been a great tool for the city of Missoula. Montanans value access to public lands, and that value translates into the way we build communities. It translates into the way we invest, and it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on, and those aisles seem to get further and further apart. One of the things that binds us as Americans and as Montanans is this deep affinity for public lands and access to those lands. It's a tie that binds.
Almost every county in every state in the Union actually has benefited in some way, shape, or form from those LWCF funds. But it has to be reauthorized. It's going to expire in September. What do you think about that?
Well, I hope we don't lose our public lands and these kind of parks. So, what can we do to protect these places?
Everybody ought to be invested in standing up for the LWCF funding when it's threatened, because it helps everybody.
The Land and Water Conservation Fund has led to partnerships with business and private landowners that yields good conservation and public access. And we met with some landowners that explained why they entered into the LWCF program.
As we look off, we can see, the sagebrush steppe country behind us. Some of the timbered country over here to the south is all under conservation easement now.
So what proportion of the operation is under conservation easement?
Oh, over 95%.
And is there any public access on these easements that you've allowed?
We allow public hunting on a first come, first served basis. Our personal experience has been that partnerships developed with that conservation easement. Let me give you an example. One of our BLM leases was challenged a few years ago by a group that didn't believe that there should be cattle grazing on federal lands. And because of the partnerships we developed with both Trout Unlimited and with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, those folks came to the table with us and said, yeah, maybe we need to make some changes in our grazing management, but we don't need to remove the cattle from the landscape. And so that partnership, to me, is really strong and really valuable. We're much stronger together than we are as an island.
So David, your experience with this program has been pretty positive, and you've built good relationships with the federal government. But a lot of people have mistrust. Some might say this is just a federal land grab. What would you say to those folks?
I understand that concern. I've certainly heard it. We considered that. We also considered, what if we didn't do that? The opportunities for our children would go away. And I think this land is better off for having people that love it on it, operating it.
The community wanted this to be public. They were very much concerned about access, that traditional use of these lands. So I don't think I do look at that as a land grab. You have this amazing structure here where you still have all the public access. You have the ability to hunt and fish, do all the things that traditionally people in this valley really cherish. And yet as landowners, we can still graze and we can still timber those lands and have all that that makes us whole as an economy right here in the valley. This is about communities coming together to build a resource, build an economy that allows people to enjoy this landscape for generations to come.
The LWCF program has just been key to so many of the conservation successes that improve people's lives here in western Montana. And we're going to see some of those on our walk today. So that's the North Hills. That was one of our earlier conservation projects where LWCF played a key role. And then the next one over is Mount Jumbo, an incredible conservation achievement for this community. And then the next one over is Mount Sentinel. Public access is provided across the whole thing.
So this can really happen anywhere in the United States, not just Missoula, Montana. All communities actually have that funding available to them for developing these sites for recreation.
Every single state has special places that are worth conserving, and if communities are willing to work really hard, the Land and Water Conservation Fund is there to help.
Legislation like the Land and Water Conservation Fund are vital to maintaining our conservation legacy here in America. But all the money in the world can't make people come together and collaborate on how to best use it. We need conservation groups, landowners, elected officials, and the state and federal agencies all working together for the future of our public lands. Nobody's talking yet this morning. Well, we haven't found a turkey yet this morning, but doesn't really matter. It's just good to be out here with you and enjoying our public lands.
This is where I find my solace, This is where I kind of recenter myself, I would say. We all live like kings. We own 640 million acres of public land. That all belongs to us, and that land doesn't care who your parents were, doesn't matter how much money you made last year, and really there couldn't be anything more democratic than our public lands. The squeaky wheel still gets the grease in this country, but you have to use your voice, and I think if we do use our voice, our legacy that is our public lands will be just fine.